Welcome everybody, the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens Black Table Talk Podcast. How everybody doing this afternoon? Today is November 28th, and we're here to talk a little bit about reentry barriers faced by returning citizens. And to my left, I have Miss Macy. To my right, I have Mr. Foster, and y'all know who I am as well. I am Travis. So we're gonna kick into this discussion and just drop a few jewels on everybody and inform, and also maybe even learn. So Foster, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so today we're talking about some of the barriers to reentry, and I wanted to start our discussion around why is it so difficult for returning citizens coming out of the jail or prison to find a job?
I think number one, because they're discriminated against and judged.
Oh yeah, stigma, lots of stigma.
Big stigma. Now, would you say it again, Macy?
I said lots of stigma.
Yeah, and why you say that?
Why do I say that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I think it just comes with a certain kind of reputation. People kind of look down on others who have come out of prison, I feel like.
Yeah, because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does wrong, but not everybody gets caught.
Very true.
So when that individual, he or she gets caught, it's like, oh, he or she just done just so wrong, just so bad. Oh my God, lock him up and throw away the key. Or you let him back out, or he doesn't deserve to work. He doesn't deserve to have a good place in society. He doesn't deserve to have good housing, things of this matter. But why not? He and she have paid their debt to society.
Yeah.
And the law says that they have paid their debt to society. So why they're continuously being punished and kind of like being put in prison still for what they done in the past?
Yeah, why are they still being punished? It's like you don't want to down a hill for a past sin that you might have committed or whatever. Sometimes we learn from our mistakes just as well. And it's very hard to have this penal system that's like an eye for eye. You did something to me, so I have to get you back. That judge pronounces that sentence over your life saying, you know what, you will be doing time in the correctional facilities or whatever. But what if we had the idea to turn the other cheek? And what I mean by that is simply saying, if someone does wrong by you, you can't get justice by also implementing a crime or hate. Hate won't work. You got to implement some type of love and compassion,
Right,
and let that in.
right. I know, not a Bible scholar or anything, but a lot of the laws of the land come from the Bible, the first 10 commandments. Outside the first 10 commandments, you have all these different laws that come behind it. So if one of the first commandments is love God, and the second one is love others as you love yourself. At any given time, there's an opportunity for somebody to get locked up for something they done wrong. Not saying it has to be something serious. It doesn't have to be anything real lengthy. But you can do some time for it. Or you can be put on probation for it, and you can lose a little bit of your rights because of that. So if you follow that, the rules of the good book, which all these laws came from, man, I mean, the society would be a lot better. Because one thing you can't do is you can't stop these individuals who've done their time from coming back. You're not going to do it. And in D.C., you have over 2,500 individuals who come home from prison every year. That's just, it may seem like a drop in the bucket, but that's 2,500 jobs you need to produce for men and women. And if they're juveniles, for them as well. So you have 2,500 individuals who've done time, who've done crime, and you're telling them when they come home, you can't get a job, or a job that you do get is going to be so low on a low thing on a totem pole that you really can't even you can't provide for yourself. So if you turn that around and say, hey, our returning citizens are coming home, not ex-cons, not these old prisoners and things of that matter. Our returning citizens are coming home. Let us do like these reentry programs are doing, these nonprofit organizations are doing, and let's get them jobs to where our communities will be safe.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We need jobs for returning citizens so that our communities can be safe. In addition to that, prior to getting released, what does the system look like for a returning citizen then? Are they being rehabilitated? Are they getting the skills and things like that that they may need when they come out? Because we know that that's going to be a barrier to their reentry. If you're leaving it up to society, who already has a stigma, as Macy was saying, about returning citizens, and not giving them the skills to prepare them when they return home, what are we faced with? Recidivism. We're faced with more crime being committed in our communities. We're faced with mental health issues, festering. That's not the answer.
Decrease in communities. Communities, there's being more this opportunity or impoverished because not only that, but where they place them as well. So if you're already putting an individual back into a society and the area that he comes from is bad, or you send him to a halfway house where the halfway house neighborhood is bad, it's only going to get worse.
I think also, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but in D.C. in particular, when people are sentenced to over a year, can't they be sent anywhere, right, in the United States if they're in the federal prison system?
Yes, they're in the federal. Yeah.
Then that cuts them off from their community, and we all know that if you don't have outside support while you're in prison, and especially when you come out to come back to that, then it just makes it so much harder to be rehabilitated into society. So that's like a particular issue in this area, in the D.C. area.
That is very unique to the D.C. area. Family reunification is very important. It's a hot topic. And like you said, if you're in the federal prisons of, system and you get shipped out, you're away from your family, right? And that's not going to rehabilitate you. That's not going to give you the mindset that you're loved, you're cared for, in spite of what you're going through in the jail or the prison system. And when you come home, you'll have to face that family member or that community again, and you want to know that they had your back all along.
Right, because everybody doesn't have the money. If a prison phone call costs, well, it used to cost $3.55. We're talking about 23 cents a minute for 15 minutes. It went down a little bit when COVID hit, but prior to that, I mean, who has for 300 minutes? Who has $70 a month in prison to spend on phone calls? When you're trying to buy cosmetics, you're trying to buy food because you're not going to get full when you go to the kitchen. You can't go in the line twice, so you'll get written up for going in the line a second time trying to get more food because the portions are small. So you have to get some type of supplementary type, food to put in your locker, a soup, peanut butter, things of that manner. So if you're not getting that much anyway, and then we already know about the wages that they have in prison is nothing at all. So it's slave wages. You have individuals that's working for 21 cents an hour, and he's busting his butt just to get $50 a month. What's that going to do? There's things in prison that's needed as well. I mean, the type of cosmetics that they give is not going to last you a whole month. So you need to go to the commissary and get a big toothpaste. You need to get soap, things of that manner. So, back to talking about the family ties. How many phone calls can I actually make to be in a relationship with my son or my daughter, or with my wife, or just my siblings or my parents? How many phone calls can I actually make to keep those ties when I'm away from home? But when we're still here in the city, they had shuttle buses. People had cars, or you can get a ride with people. Or sometimes you can take the metro if it goes out there far enough, to where you can go visit your family members. You can be a part of fairs and stuff like you used to have when it was here in the city. But when that's taken away and we're being put further away than 500 miles, I mean, you're severing ties.
You're severing ties from your family members. And then that's only if you come from a family that wants to support you, right? That wants to be around you. If you get out of jail or prison and you do not have a supportive family, that's another barrier to reentry.
Yeah.
That is another barrier to reentry. You're on your own to think about things that you basically need: food, clothing, shelter. What are you going to do?
Right. I mean, a desperate man or woman would do desperate things in order to obtain the things that they need. I ain't necessarily food is not a want; it's a need. Housing is not a want; it's a need. So if these things are not provided for us when we come home, then here lies a big problem. Okay, you've done your time. You've done your time successfully. You're still alive. You didn't get you didn't get extra time while you was in a lot of
Not
cases.
burned out.
Right, you're not burned out. And even if you are burned out, hey, I need a job. Hey, I need housing. Let's say that I burnt bridges with my family members when I was in. Or this last time I did time, they said, that's it. We've been supporting you all these years. You keep going in and out of prison your whole life. We can't do any more for you. We have bills and stuff out here we got to pay too. So you got to put this on your own. So when you come home, it's like, you can't stay with us. We done been there, done it with you, and ain't doing any good. So we have a homeless issue.
Homelessness. Talk about it.
And I think the stats say, or the numbers say that 3 out of 5 returning citizens that return home are homeless. That comes out to be like 55 to 53%, 57% of people who come home to D.C., we're talking about the D.C., are homeless.
And if you're homeless, then you have to get a case manager. You're probably staying in Friendship Place or 801 Southeast. The conditions there are no better.
No better at all. It's like anarchy in there, in the shelters.
They try to feed you. They try to house you, and then you're up early to stay out all day doing, God knows what. Hopefully you're looking for a job.
Right.
But this is what you got to call home for the next couple of months until you get back on your feet.
You got to worry about your stuff getting stolen because there's not lockers with locks on them, things that manner. So you met with a whole lot, and not a lot of the people in the city, with the powers that be, I'll say, are giving enough attention to it. I mean, if you look around the city from southeast to northwest, or going across the line, to Maryland, they're building buildings and they're being erected fast. I mean, we look across the way right now out the window. I've been here 8 months, and I've seen where a building got knocked down to where now it's erected and they're ready to put the side and all that type of stuff in it, and I guess just start building it on the inside. But we're talking about within 9 months. Well, they're working pretty much every day. But you build these businesses, you build these restaurants and things that matter, or these high-end apartments. Well, what about the returning citizens?
What about the returning citizens? Why is there a lack of empathy and sympathy for this population that's going to come home one day and be welcomed to the realities of what we are either going to do to support our returning citizens or what's not being done at all? And people can't keep keep looking away at the problem, but instead come up with a solution that says, you know what, let's help them.
Right. I mean, where's the love at? We say we love our own, but it's not shown, in a broad case, across the board, it's like, okay, here's a program for you. Come to the program. You go down to Bread for the City. We'll give you some food. We'll give you a jacket. Things that, man, okay, that's good. That we need that. But
we need a job. Yeah, you said it. We need jobs.
And we're talking about I read something online that you need to make in D.C. at least $67,000.
$67,000
in order to just sustain a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah. Rent in the city is crazy.
And we're not even talking about if you have a car. We're not talking about food. We're not talking about
transportation, paying to get on public transportation, your fare card and all that, credit card if you had that to pay bills back as well.
We're talking about just to have an apartment that's going to run you like $1,600 a month.
And so you brought up something very interesting, Mr. Register, as far as having a job. And we know that another barrier to reentry is what the work that we've been doing here at the Reentry Network as far as Ban the Box. Can we dive into that a little bit for our audiences to help them understand these are some of the rights that you need to know about when applying for a job and trying to overcome that barrier to reentry as far as getting back to work?
Well, for anybody who doesn't know, the National Reentry Network was very instrumental and at the forefront of that campaign of Ban the Box, which means that on a job application, when you go to that establishment to apply for a job, there used to be a box on the front that would say, are you a convicted felon? Have you ever been to prison? It had to be that discriminative, that's discriminating against the individual. So now that's been done away with. Came up with a law, can't do that. But now these employers have become more subtle, because now when they accept your application and they say, okay, let's bring them in for an interview, and they'll talk and they'll talk and they'll talk and they'll say, hey, have you ever been to prison? Or sometimes they'll do a background check, and they'll say, okay, well, that's a way around ban the box. It's not on my application, but when I call them in for an interview, I've already done my background check, or maybe I don't call you in for an interview. I just don't answer. I reject your application because I done a background check and seen you've been in prison. You got a felony. So now we like the skills that he had, but we're not going to hire him because he's a returning citizen.
So I'll share a personal story. I was applying to work for a job, and on the job application, it clearly asks, "Are you a returning citizen?" Basically, and without knowing my rights, I answered the question. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that I didn't get that job because I had a charge on my case, on my record, right? And so it would come up. And I kept thinking to myself, this has got to be the worst thing that you can do to somebody who's paid their debt to society, did their time, coming home or whatever, and now I can't get a job because you preconceived notions about who I am as a person. You're going to discriminate against me?
Yeah. And like you said, the rights. You don't know your rights, man. And a lot of us are missing out because we don't know our rights. But that's why we got this thing going on with us. In our organization, the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens, we got a workers' right program. And and the workers' right program is teaching us about our rights. And the do's and don'ts that can be done in the workplace. And then if you have some do's, but the establishment is doing the don'ts, then that's a lawsuit. Lawsuits will bring a little bit of money. Lawsuits will put you in a position, not only you, but people that come behind you to get a better job.
And brings about change, and it also supports the statistics that basically state that if you hire a returning citizen, you get a good return on your investment. That's the promise.
Yep.
There's a reality that has to be met, and you have to face that reality, which is, like I said, if you hire returning citizens, you get a good return on your investment. So it's not like you're doing away with this notion of saying, well, I hired a returning citizen, they'll be out of here in the next week or two. They won't make their next 90 days.
I know a lot of men who've done over 20 years. Well, I know that I've been doing time, have done time past 20 years and better. But we even go back to like double-digit years. We'll say 10 and up. You have men and women in prison that are disciplined, that work as part of their program. They get up like they have industries in prison called Unicor. If you're in the feds, it's Unicor. So you go into this, and they're called prison industry. So you're going there, whether it be textile or whether it be putting together satellite panels or building. A lot of things goes on. Furniture, whether it be the print shop, whether it be sewing things for the armed forces, or a lot of different things. But it's called Unicor, Prison Industries. You going in there 5 days a week. Sometimes you go on the weekends if you have overtime. But you have these men and women that's going in and day out, and if they have overtime, they will stay. We're talking about getting to work at 7 o'clock in the morning, staying until 4 o'clock. And they have overtime, they'll stay till 8. Go back to the unit, take a shower, get a little something to eat, maybe make a phone call, get ready for bed so they can get back up in the morning and do it again. And if they call for work overtime on the weekends, you might work 12 hours. You might work from 8 to 8. So, but they're working. Because they have things they want to accomplish. They want to be able to have the lockers pumped up with commissary just in case there's a lockdown. They can eat whatever they want. If they don't like what's on the tray, coming through the tray slot, they ain't got to take that tray. They'll make something with out of their locker. So when you hire these returning citizens, they have a discipline. They know how to work. They know how to be on time. They know how to be respectful because they want what's coming to them, which is the check. Who doesn't want to eat? So if you was to hire these individuals who done double digits, you're going to get a good worker. These are the type of individuals that take management positions after 6 months because they see their ethic. I don't mind doing overtime. I do this all the time. This ain't nothing. 8 hours, that's all you got for me? I'll do 16 with no problem. I'll be right back here to work fresh the next day. But people out here now, they're just, it's lackluster. There's not a lot of enthusiasm. It's burdensome for to do 8 hours. But an individual who's coming home from prison, a returning citizen who's coming home from prison, he says, "Hey, I gotta make my mark out here. I'm behind. I got to start fresh. So I need to accumulate as much revenue as I can the legal way, the right way, and I'm going to only be able to do that by either working hard at my job that I have or get a second job. And sometimes you have individuals that work a full-time job or with 2 full-time jobs, but a lot of times it's a full-time job and a part-time job. So hiring you're definitely hiring an asset and boosting your company when you hire returning citizens because of work ethic and their discipline.
Yeah, point well made. Point well made. There's some other things that we can talk about today as well. As a returning citizen trying to come home from the correctional facility that they were in, there are things that they can also invest in, like their education. Yeah. And taking time to see that avenue. If you want to learn a new skill set or have a trade or just to, go back to school, you can.
It has to be done on your own. Nowadays, the prisons don't provide because they say budget cuts and things of that manner. So they're not going to provide and allow it to be free like it used to be back in the day. But in a position, a lot of these correspondent courses they have at these colleges, community colleges and, Georgetown, all these type of colleges, from big to small, they offer correspondence courses.
Yes, and one of the things you can also do is start out at your local library, right?
Yep.
And work with a staff member there who can help you write your resume, who can help you build that cover letter, right? Get you a library card. Start checking out some books. Sometimes the best kept secret is in a book because we didn't open it up and read it.
You better know it.
And we as returning citizens know that we can invest in ourselves when no one else wants to invest in us.
Got to.
So I think education is one of those opportunities that an individual who's saying, well, I might not be able to get my dream job, but I can go out here and invest in my education.
Right. And I mean, that's a good point because a lot of times in prison, the only time we're reading books is when we're locked down. I mean, after a long period of time, nobody's actually going to the library and actually getting books and just say they want to read them. No, when you go into the library, you're going to make moves. You go to rub shoulders or see somebody you ain't seen. It's almost like a place of business to meet. But the books are just there. Sometimes you might get the book and use it as a front. But nobody's actually opened up these books. I ain't going to say nobody. A small percentage are actually going to the library to get the resources out of there, to get the education out of there. I'm going to tell you something else is wrong. Something else is wrong, too. And they call it being institutionalized. And there's a lot of different levels to it. But when you've been in prison for years and they tell you when to get up, they tell you when to eat, they tell you when to go outside and play, they tell you what time you go to work, or they tell you you're not coming out today. You get conditioned to being told what to do. So you're reactive and not proactive. So unless they tell you better go to GED class or you're going to get rolled up. So now individuals go to GED class. They may not want the education. They may not want the high school diploma. But they're going to go because they don't want to get rolled up. Are they really going to learn? No. So it has to be wanted by yourself, within yourself. The institution don't care. They'll let you sit there all day and be stupid. Because, the institution I was in, they had 10 TVs.
That is a barrier to entry, though. Like you said, if you're not, as an individual, invested in yourself, then it's going to be twice as hard to get someone else to invest in you because of how you present yourself. And you have to remember that you're presenting yourself, putting your best foot forward at all times. So it's okay if you have a lack of skills or may not have that work ethic like you were saying. But if you present well, I'm not talking about fake it till you make it. I'm talking about present well and you want to aspire to be more, then there are opportunities that you have to overcome as a returning citizen. We just talked about a few of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that it's impossible.
Not impossible. Maybe hard, but not impossible. How bad do you want it? Macy, you real quiet on there. Can we hear you?
Yeah. I actually kind of wanted to. This kind of goes into what you guys were talking about, but I feel like we were just kind of discussing like intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, and like being inspired to do it yourself, or being told to do it, and that's why you're doing it. That's what we were talking about. But I think that kind of goes hand in hand with mental health and counseling and those resources that are unfortunately not available to returning citizens when they're out, and would be very beneficial if they were.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think about that?
There's different levels of mental health. You have individuals. I think all men and women who have been in prison suffer from some type of mental health. Maybe it's hard to see because they've coped with it so well, and they was focused and then get burnt out on the foolishness that goes on in prison. To the point that you'll say, okay, he's functional, he's good, he's not burnt out, but there may be an issue. It hasn't been too many triggers, but let a trigger hit, and you may see that individual different. It's like, whoa, we never seen this before. But this type of help needs to be available for returning citizens as well. I mean, and they do the military the same way. You got men and women that's going across seas and all over the world, man, to kill. Man, that's not normal.
It's not.
And they're getting programmed in boot camp in order to be killing machines. So then when you come home, if you're being programmed to be a killer, and then when your tour of duty and you've done what you want to do in the military, and now you're out and you want to be a normal citizen in society, man, you still trying to be a killer. They haven't deprogrammed you. So
the military, I'm fairly certain the military funnels more funding and money into Viagra than it does mental health services.
Yes.
I'm being so serious.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, so here's two class of people. One that served the country, the other one that did a disservice to the country. So now they put them in prison, and they come out in a mental prison because they don't know how to function outside of war. And you have men and women who coming out of prison, they don't know how to function outside of prison, and that needs to be paid attention to. And it can't be taken care of or cured by a pill. A lot of times in prison, people who have mental health issues, they send them the pill line, they dope them up. What about checking and seeing? This is what mitigated specialists do. They actually go into the history of that individual and see what caused this type of mental illness that they have now. What type of trauma what did they see when they was young? What was they a part of when they was young? And what type of things were done to them when they were young? So it causes them, it trains them and breeds them to be individuals, man, who are not fit for society, so to speak, because they're committing crimes and things like that manner. But nobody wants to get to the core or to the root of the problem with the individual. They want to dope them up or they throw them in prison. There's so many men and women that's locked up in prison. I'm talking about in the feds, just because they're mentally ill. They was out there on the street and they was cutting up. So what they do is they lock them up and give them a 5-year sentence and want to dope them up. Okay, it still remains. Where's the love and the care? It is none, because they're investing in prisons and not people. Unlike us, we're investing in people and not prisons.
Say it again. We're investing in people
and not prisons.
That's right.
And they invest in prisons and not people.
Right.
So as long as we're coming in and out of prison, you got actual correctional officers at the end of their 25-year tenure. They are millionaires. Millionaires. I ain't talking about something I read in the book. I didn't see it.
And this is off the back of someone who's having a true mental health experience.
Yeah.
Because of their time behind bars. You know what I mean? And now we're talking about them having to overcome that barrier when they come out because no one took the time to care for them.
Nobody care for them. Nobody care for them. Like a car in a junkyard. Something simple to fix, but they don't want to do it, so just, throw it in there to rust and rot away. But you have individuals, and when you sit down and you talk to them, these were men and women who were somebody a lot of times. Very educated. They had things. You see their pictures and stuff, it's like, that's you. And there's nowhere in the world this is you. And then they go and talk about what happened to them. You understand. Now you have a new level of respect for them. You have a new level of care for them because this is what they were, man. But then what happened? I mean, nobody wants to care for an individual, who's down and out, and have mentally ill, mental health issues. They don't want it. I was a mental health companion, and we got trained every 6 months, to deal with individuals. Because there was so many, the institution I was in, there was so many individuals, man, who's going to pill line. It looked like a wreck move, or like they was going, going to the kitchen. Mm-hmm. They was running to get their dope, and a lot of them, it was to the point to where they needed a companion, to help walk beside them and make sure they go get their medication, make sure they're not getting taken advantage of, make sure that when they do spaz out, because a lot of times when they spaz out or have an episode, the officer, what they want to do is put out the pepper spray and spray them down. Why? It's not hurting you, man. He's having an episode. Understand what's going on. But when we got trained for that, we understood how to care for him. So a lot of times they recognize a human being recognizes love. I don't care if he can't talk. I don't care if he can't see. I don't care if he can't feel, he or she. They feel love. So when that individual knows that he's actually being cared for, I can come from one unit to the other unit and be like, hey, man, what you doing? And they'll calm down.
That's a great story to tell as far as celebrating someone's recovery in mental health, right? Having a companion to walk through that with you. It had to be tough, but you made the choice to do it. Those are the types of things that we're talking about as far as people getting the help and services that they need. How do we move forward in trying to let the larger community, and by that I mean taxpayers, city council, and things like that, in on some of these barriers to reentry for returning citizens, and what should they be doing?
You gotta show love, man. They got all these laws that's saying do this or do that, and they have agencies or little places where you can go to, and they'll give you some tangible things. But that's just tangible things.
You're right. Like, for example, they have the Fresh Start Act that they're trying to pass now because of the DC jail food being considered poisonous, and you're creating health problems for people when they come out, right?
Right.
So one of the things the city council can be doing is help pass that policy so that it can become a law and change how we're helping people eat healthier while they're behind bars and things like that, and not making them sick. Right.
Where's the love at, man? I wish we can go further, y'all. It'll definitely be a part 2 of this, and we know that it's a topic that's we just can't have done in 1 or 2 parts. It's something serious. We're talking about human beings. Human beings need to be loved, and they're coming back into society, so they need to not erase, but knock down those barriers to make sure they're successful. Macy, thank you for being with us. Our fellow staff member, y'all. She ain't talk much, but next time she will. I guarantee that. Foster, thank you for your questions. Thank you for your interaction. Hey, y'all, we got to go. We're signing off, but we're never signing out because we always got work to do here at the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens. Y'all do good.